Most people think that solar wiring is red to red and black to black until they go and fry their charge controller, or they lose half their power and have no idea what actually went wrong. The most important thing when wiring solar is if they need to be wired in series or parallel. But what is the difference between them and why should it matter to you? Welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. When you start learning solar, you usually hear two main terms, series or parallel. And I cannot stress this enough, these are very important to learn before you buy solar panels. Because based on the system you choose, it determines which one of these you have to choose. Sometimes different inverters have different voltages and amperages, but that being said, you don't need to use series by itself or parallel by itself. You can actually work them in together. Think of series as one big daisy chain. One panel goes right into the next one. Think of it like this. Your positives are in one line and your negatives are all in one line. And basically electricity flows through the whole thing in one direction. Here's an example. Let's say you have 6 panels. Each panel is 25 volts and 10 amps. In series, the voltage adds and the amps stay the same. So basically with the 6 panels, you'll have a total of 150 volts and 10 amps. So the pros of this are number 1, better wiring efficiency. The second one is because you have such higher voltage, you have cleaner installs, and you have that 10 amp wire, so it's like still super small. And usually low cost as well. But like with everything, there is still cons. Since every panel depends on the one beside it, and just like that old adage, you're only as strong as your weakest link, that kind of comes into play here. If you have shade on a solar panel, it's going to affect literally the whole thing if it's in series, because each panel relies on the one before it to pass that signal on. And the cons with having it in a series is if you do get shade on one solar panel, it affects your entire array. So it's hard to diagnose if one of your panels goes down. If you get shade, you're kind of screwed. And that's where we move into parallel wiring because it works completely differently and it has some advantages over series wiring. So the difference between the series is in parallel, you take all of the positives and you take all of the negatives, you combine them all into a main line. So in series wiring, you have the voltages all add up and the amperages stay the same. And in parallel, it's reverse. Your amperages add up, your voltages stay the same. And this is where it's better than series because each panel works individually. If you have shade on one panel, the other panels aren't affected. And in turn, that makes parallel wiring a little more forgiving and you're still maximizing a lot of the power you can instead of having one little solar panel messing it up for the rest. However, the cons to that is you have higher amperages. That means you're gonna have way thicker wires, you're gonna generate more heat, and you're gonna need to install some more protection devices. And because of this, it's going to become more expensive. But a great thing is you can combine series and parallel together in real-world usages and real-world setups just like ours, and a lot of times there's a need for both.
In a real-life example, this massive panel stand actually supplies power to our house, so we have to be able to rely on it. And so what we did was we actually mixed series and parallel wiring. So this entire top row is run in series, and then the same thing for the bottom row. The entire thing is run in series, and then both of these rows run into parallel together before they run into the home. So that if something happens to one of the panels on the top or something happens on the panels on the bottom, you still have power from either the top row or the bottom row. So at worst case scenario, we're at 50% capacity, whereas if we wired them all together in series and one of these panels shit the bed, we lose the entire thing. And basically in the example John was giving you guys, these are much higher voltage panels and much higher amperage because they're big, but say they were all 25 volts and 10 amps. Right now we have 12 across the top, 12 across the bottom. You'd basically have 300 volts on the top and 300 volts on the bottom, and then a total of 20 amps once they combine into each other and run in parallel into the house. So if your inverter had a limit of say 500 volts, that's a really good way to get a ton of panels into your inverter with keeping it within that limit of your voltage.
If there's one lesson I want you to learn from this video is that series voltages add up and amps stay the same, and in parallel, it's flipped. Your amps add up and your voltages stay the same. And if you don't remember that, Google is your best friend. Just look it up. But at least you know now why it's important not to mess it up. When it comes to going solar, learning this stuff matters so much more than buying expensive equipment and buying more expensive solar panels. If you guys did learn something today in this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend if they would find it useful. As always, we have links down in the description to save you guys some money when the time comes to actually buy something. But for now, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out and stay charged.